there, it's Carol with Carol B Crafts. Today we'll be making project number 6 in my Candy Cane Season Club Kit. This is an adorable little chapstick holder. It holds 3 tubes of chapstick. You can get the details on how you can participate in my monthly club kits on my website, www.cutstampcreateclub.com, or check out my Facebook page, Cut Stamp Create Club. Now you could put this in a stocking, or you could even hang it from the tree. It's a nice little office gift to leave on someone's desk to surprise them. Now it's a relatively easy to make. I will give the dimensions and the supplies as we go along, and then I will also show you how to make the box at the end of the video. Now the supplies that you will need are very basic. This comes pre-cut and pre-scored in the kit, but at the end I will show you how to make this. This is a cut. We cut this piece from the Santa's Workshop DSP. It is 2 3/8 by 3 1/2, but you could use any DSP that you want, but we cut this when we did project number 4. And like I said, I'll give you the directions of how to do this to get it to this part at the end. This is a 6-inch piece of the Poppy Parade mini striped ribbon, and then we have a piece of Whisper White that is 3 by 1 1/2, and that's just for the sentiment, which we die cut with the smallest stitched oval in the Stitched Shapes framelits dies. And of course we'll be using the Be Jolly from the Candy Cane Season Stamps. That's the bundle that we're working on this month in this month's workshop. So we'll go ahead and get started, and we'll start with our stamping. So we'll get our Stamparatus out. Now we're just going to stamp Be Jolly in the center of our paper, our cardstock, our Whisper White cardstock, so that we can die cut that. Now we're going to take the smallest stitched oval die from the Stitched Shapes framelits, and we're going to die cut the Be Jolly. We're just going to center it in the die. So now we have our Be Jolly. We're going to go ahead and start working on the box part. You'll need some sharp scissors that you want to use, and I'll try to do this so that you don't get confused. So first thing we want to do, there's 4 little squares here in each corner. We're going to cut those out. Now on your score lines, you will want to cut on the outside of the score line. There's like a little valley or trench. You're going to cut on the outside of that trench, just so you get a smoother cut. I should say on the other side of that trench, so that there's none of the trench left when you cut. Okay, so we've cut those 4 corners out. So next we're going to cut these 4 corners. Now we're not going to cut them out. We're just going to cut. This time we're going to cut on the inside, of the trench. In other words, the side that's towards what we're cutting. And we're cutting from the outside towards the center. So now we have these 4 pieces here. That helps you to know what you've just cut. Now on these pieces that are left, you can see there's a little bit of the trench left. We're going to cut that trench out, and we're going to cut it up to the box so that we have a space there. Okay, so you can see how we have little spaces now by cutting out the rest of that trench. Now we're going to fold all of these away from us. They all get folded on the fold lines. They all get folded away from us. So now you can kind of see where our box is going. So that's kind of where we're going with our box. Now these on the side, these four corners, we want to do something called mitering, and we're just going to miter them slightly, ever so slightly, on the inside here. And you can see how we kind of mitered the inside there. And now we're going to do similar to the outside of that. We're just going to miter that slightly for the outside. So now you can see that we have a little bit more easement there. I think we will go ahead and miter these edges just slightly as well, the outside, but only the 1/2 inch mark will we miter slightly. And so you can see how I mitered the edges here on the 1/2 inch. That'll help it to close a little easier. We don't want it to close too easily, because what will happen is it will come open and your chapstick won't stay inside. It won't stay closed if we get it too loose when we're mitering it. I think that will be good there. So once you have it mitered and finished and ready to put together, you're going to take some glue and you're going to put glue. Now, I'm using dots. I like to use dots, but you can use, you know, however you want to apply it. When I do dots, I usually don't get too much. I want to make sure I get enough dots around here so that it does stick, the two pieces do stick together, and they will appear to be one piece. So I'm going to match these up, and I'm going to hold it flat until it dries. I'm going to go ahead and burnish this bottom here while we're waiting. So we don't want to put any pressure on that till it's had lots of time to dry really well. So we'll go ahead and close our box up, and we have our little box. Now we're going to put our paper on. Now you can just wrap that around, but I like to go ahead and score it. I'm going to score at 3/4 on both ends. So I have 3/4 and 3/4. But don't score it too hard, just lightly, because it is DSP and it doesn't have to be scored as firmly as your cardstock. So now that's going to fit on there a little bit better and have a nicer, neater, trimmer look. So I'm just going to put that on with some glue. Make sure I get it on the edges. Okay, and I'm putting a generous amount because it does move. It will be moving. And I'm just going to center it on the front and wrap those sides around until they have a chance to dry. Now we can put our Be Jolly on. I'm going to use glue for that as well. And you're just going to put it right about there. And the reason I like glue is because it gives you a chance to reposition it if you don't like where you got it. Now we're going to take our 2-inch ribbon and fold it in half, and we're going to put it through from the front, the folded half, towards the back. Now you're going to take one of the sides and you're going to turn it so that it is going, so that the loop is kind of more open. So that it looks like this. I'm going to keep your ribbon to be the same distance. And then you're just going to take these 2 pieces and put it up through that loop like that and pull it. Now you have your 2 little things at the top. But just to make sure that they stay in place and doesn't come loose, we're going to take a glue dot and just pick it up, and we're going to slip it underneath here when we pull it tight. It's a bit tricky, but once you pull it like that, you won't have to worry about this coming loose. So basically you're just putting the glue dot on the underneath side of this top ribbon that goes across there. And then you'll trim your sides of your, the ends of your ribbon. And I'm going to do mine at a slant towards the outside. So now we have our little chapstick holder, and if you want to stick around, I'll show you how to make this part of the box so that you can make more of these. Thanks for watching. Okay, thanks for sticking around. So we're going to make the card base, and we're going to do that. We need a regular sheet of Poppy Parade. Okay, so we're going to cut this first in portrait at 4.5. And then this needs to be 10.5, but rather than pull out my arm and measure 10.5, I know it's 11, so I'm just going to take off a 1/2 inch. And then I know that will be 10.5. Okay, so I have my 4.5 by 10.5 sheet of Poppy Parade. I'm going to find 1 1/4, and I'm going to make sure that it's straight all the way up and down. And now I'm going to cut down to 4.5. I'm going to take it and turn it over to the other side and find 1 1/4. Make sure it's straight, and cut to 4.5 again. Okay, so now I'm going to cut the other end, but this time I'm going to measure 1 1/4, but I'm only going to cut down to 1 3/4. So 1 3/4. Flip it over. 1 1/4 again, and then cut to 1 3/4. So I have 2 cuts 1 3/4, 2 cuts 4.5. Now I'm going to turn it to the 4.5 inch cut side and measure 4.5. I'm going to bring my blade, and it has a little like a little pointy arrow there. I've measured it 4.5 here. I'm going to bring my blade down to where that arrow is even with my cut mark. And I can kind of feel it when it stops cutting, and I'm going to pull that away. Now I'm going to go down here, still at 4.5. Make sure it's still at 4.5. And you're going to cut up till you feel that it's cut through that piece. It's about 1 1/4 on each side. Now we're going to turn it to the 1 3/4. Cut and measure at 1 3/4. Make sure that it's in place, and we're going to bring this up till it's even about 1 1/4 with the cut, and then again we're going to go all the way down till it's even with the cut, so that this is what we have: 1 3/4 down, 1 1/4 in, 4.5 down, 1 1/4 in. So this is what we have. Now we're ready to do some scoring. Now on the side that has the 1 3/4 inch cut, you're going to measure 1 3/4. And it might be a little hard, so all you really need to do is line this up with the 1 3/4 inch line. Now we are going to use our scoring tab, so make sure you're not using your cutting tab. And where it's 1 3/4, we're going to just score, and we're basically scoring across the line there where the cut is. We're going to move it up to the 2.5, and you can use this part right here to kind of steady your cardstock. This little lever right there. And now we're at 2.5, so we're going to score at 2.5. You see, now we're going to move it up to 5 1/4. It's a little easier to do because we can butt it up against that guide. 5 1/4. And then lastly at 6. Basically we're going to score across here where the cut is. Okay, that's our scoring for this direction. Now we're going to turn it in this direction and measure over here 1/2 inch. So 1/2 inch on the right we're going to score. Make sure your cardstock is up there nice against the guide. And let me get this a little more perfect. Okay, there we go. So we got our 1/2 inch, and then we're going to score again along this line right here, which is 1 1/4. Okay, so now we're going to turn it this way. Do the same thing, 1/2 inch on this flap, and then 1 1/4. Make sure that it's even and level. Okay, and that is our scoring. Now, the only other thing you need to do to bring it up to where we began in the video is to take your 2-inch flap there and stick it in the scalloped label punch, and make sure that it's even on both sides here, and that it's butted up against this back part, and then you're going to punch. And then you're going to do the same thing for this side. You're going to slide this 2-inch flap in, turn it around, make sure that it's even between these two, and butt it up against the back and punch. And now you have the piece that we started out with at the beginning of the video. Thanks for watching. Bye now.